to another episode of the Hakuna Licata podcast. I'm not sure what number episode I'm at right now. I'm in the midst of trying to do some rebranding, you know what I mean? I'm trying to come up with a logo. I'm getting a couple things built in, and it was like, you know, when I first started doing this, man, I had a piece of shit computer, and I couldn't really do anything on it, hence why I have this, this mixer I got from my buddy Jordan. So I'm in the market to buy one now that goes like right in, so I don't have to deal with all this stuff, and I can record right on the computer. But
upgrading.
Yeah, dude. Eventually, I'd like to get some sort of like video element.
Yeah.
Which I think would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be sick, dude.
You know, because like listening to it's one thing, but you know, actually seeing video and like how we're talking and stuff like that, I think would be pretty cool too.
Yeah, different way to engage.
So one thing I was thinking, you know, we did almost no preparation for this, which is I think the most organic way of doing it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just kind of like the conversation as it comes.
100%.
So I was like messing around on Facebook today. I don't usually like to go on Facebook. Like I think you said last time we were on here that you have any social media, right?
Nope. I'm off the grid, man. Fell off the map a while ago.
It's nice, man. It's got to be super nice to be off the grid like that. But I still have it for whatever reason.
It has its benefits.
Yeah. So I used to live in East Camden with my buddy, right? And we had this neighbor, really pretty girl. She's probably like in her mid to late 30s. Had like a 20-something-year-old son. So I see a Facebook post and it says, "Such a tragedy. It was too early for you to leave us. Rest in peace, Elaine. Best wishes to your children in their life's journey." So she was literally our next door neighbor, and what happened was,
Wow.
I guess her boyfriend broke up with her, and the dude came over and stabbed her to death out in the middle of the street.
Get the hell out of here.
Isn't that nuts?
Dude.
Right?
This is the world that we live in.
Yeah, man.
Stabbing people.
Right.
You gotta be some type of individual to go straight for the gut like that.
Right? I mean, that's like, all I know about crime and stuff is what I've seen on Law & Order, but they always talk about, like, if it's like a close contact, like, stab thing, it's usually like an emotional murder, you know what I mean?
Instead of like, it has to be, dude.
If it's like a shot to the back of the head and like something like that is kind of more maybe like business related,
right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
like
shit, you gotta have some weight behind your thought process to go and stab someone, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yeah, that's sad, man.
Serious, right? And like I remember I used to see this girl all the time when I was like going to work, and I'd be like, "Oh, hey Elaine, what's going on?" You know, I didn't, never shared anything but like pleasantries in between, like coming and going, like see her, wave to her, say hello, maybe chat it up for like 2 minutes about like nothing important, But it was weird when I saw that. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. So I reached out to my buddy and like talked to him for a little bit and was like, yo, man, like, sorry to hear about Elaine. Like, I hope her, because the dude stabbed her son too, like the 20-year-old kid. Yeah. So I guess like he goes in the house under the pretense of I'm packing up my belongings and I'm leaving. Comes over, has a knife, stabs the son, stabs her. She runs out to the street, I guess, to get help. And then he follows her out there and stabs her a couple times and leaves her like bleeding out in the middle of the street. Then goes back to his house and the U.S. Marshals picked him up.
Good.
Right? That's what I'm saying. The dude's probably, I think he's in Camden County right now. And I would assume probably not having any sort of bail.
That's the type of shit, you know what I mean, in county that, you don't get a pass for that one.
No, not at all.
That's not something that you get respect for.
No. Yeah, you're like the dude who murdered his pretty girlfriend. You know what I mean? That's not going to fly.
Yeah, you get no pass for that.
So
it's a shame, dude. And you see that all over the place. And you know what's crazy is that stuff happens every day. People get stabbed and shot every day.
Mm-hmm.
And across the globe, too, and more prominently where guns are not available. I mean, what other weapons do you have? You
Right.
see that a lot in South America because, they don't have access to guns. Like, we can just walk up to a gun shop and buy one. They don't have gun stores on every corner like out here. I mean, not necessarily New Jersey, but in the country per se.
I mean, you can walk into. I had to get CO2 cans filled for our paintball guns the other day, and I went in and they got shotguns right there. There's the cheapest shotgun was.
Where was that?
At Dick's Sporting Goods in Mays Landing.
Oh wow, yeah. I thought they got rid of them because Walmart got rid of guns.
Right. They used to have them there when I was a kid.
That's a topic, man, because see me, when it comes to guns, like I grew up around guns. My dad hunts.
Right.
My whole family hunts, and I grew up in a hunting club. Like I would go hunt with my family every Thanksgiving. We would go rabbit hunting before our Thanksgiving, and it was it's kind of like the aspect of like how alcohol in Italy is not a big deal. Like you're brought up with it, so it's not really a big deal. So guns aren't a big deal to me. At the same time, there's people that in this world aren't brought up around guns. So when they have turn 18 and they get access like that and they play all these video games, whatever the cause may be, they say it's from video games. I don't know, man. Here's the bottom line. It comes down to a people problem versus a gun problem to me. I mean, obviously the thought process on people is, okay, why should someone have access to a semi-automatic machine gun, right? Any normal person.
Right.
But then you think about it, right? The Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. Who's to say what kind of arms? They say, why can't you just be happy with a handgun? Now, my perspective is, this is me just being, cynical, is,
right.
I mean, you see where we're at in the world state of affairs, and you see the progress of the planet and everything. Like, who's to say that apocalypse isn't to happen at any time? Who's to say that anything crazy like that couldn't happen? So, say something does happen, nuclear war, apocalypse, disease pops up, anything. I mean, it's crazy because obviously, that's thinking a little outside the box. But now, let's say there's an apocalypse and you're sitting at home, and 20 years after they banned semi-automatic machine guns, all that there's left is handguns. But just like the black market, these people have access to semi-automatics, and 10 guys with semi-automatic machine guns come into your house, and all you got is a handgun. Right. How are you going to protect your family?
Right.
And when it comes to, Texas is very, NRA, pro-NRA and all that.
They got everything.
They got
Texas,
everything
man.
down there. It's almost like a different country. But the thing is, like...
you go to a Ford dealership and get a tank in Texas.
Right. And here's the thing, though. The right to bear arms, it's in our Constitution. Right. And once the government starts changing the Constitution, then who's to say they can't change any other amendment to the Constitution? Who's to say they can't say, all right, well... we enacted this bill that allows us to change parts of the Constitution. What if they utilize that bill to change freedom of speech? What if they utilize that bill to change anything from slavery? You know what I mean? So it's in place for a reason. Obviously, the forefathers didn't predict us utilizing semi-automatic machine guns and turrets.
When they had muskets and stuff like that back then.
It's a very complicated topic. My point of view is I'm pro-gun because here's the thing, man. We got a country that's sick in the head, right? And they say, right, that it's the guns and all this, right? But we got a sick population.
Right.
If you look at the statistics behind all these mass shootings,
right,
an overwhelming amount of those people are on antidepressants and mood stabilizers,
right,
which stems from a separate problem, mental health in our country,
right,
coming from pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
I mean, Prozac and all these different things, they're supposed to help with depression. Once you get off of them, it's very hard to come back to reality in a sense. But it helps people. So, it's
strange, man. And the one thing that I was thinking of when you were talking about all that is all right, so my family came over to the United States sometimes in like the early 1900s. Like I don't know if it was 1918, 1919, 1920. It was in between World War I and World War II was when they came over here. Part of it was because of all the political turmoil in whatever country they came from, whether it be Italy or my family from Poland or whatever. But like us, when you were talking about the Constitution, I kind of started thinking, we blindly follow what is in that Constitution, right? Because that's the country we were born in, and we're like, this is what's right, without really ever thinking about it for ourselves, whether or not we think it's right.
Right.
And, you grew up with guns. I didn't grow up with guns. Personally, I don't give a shit if anybody has a gun or not. You know what I mean? When I lived out in Wyoming, people didn't lock their doors to their cars. They would just leave their revolver on the dashboard when they went into the grocery store. And Wyoming's a cool state because your concealed carry permit is your driver's license. So
Wow.
say you move to Wyoming, you get a driver's license, you stay there for 6 months, and then you can conceal carry. So people out there are under the presumption that everyone has a gun. Granted, the landscape of Wyoming is extremely different from New Jersey in the fact that there's only 500,000 people in the whole state, and someone told me that there are more cows in that state than people. And we're in Atlantic County, which probably has over 500,000
Right. I'm
people.
curious to see the statistics on Wyoming's violence rates.
Well, I think part of violence rates, this is from an uneducated opinion, that these violence rates probably have something to do within the close proximity of people living together. You know what I mean? Out in Wyoming, you can go miles without seeing anybody.
Right.
You see a bunch of wildlife like an elk, a fucking moose, a shitload of cattle, and maybe like a bison, but you're not going to see other people. And most of those people have their guns to protect themselves from the wild animals. Like you get a buffalo or like a bear charging at you, like you need like a muzzle loader to put that thing down, So I don't really know if the two really correlate with each other, but the point I was trying to make was that, we like support this Constitution just because we were born in this country. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
blindly follow.
Right, which is an interesting thing. But I mean, I guess, I can't really say for sure whether or not I would agree with the Constitution had I not been brought up in this country.
That is true. I mean, also, when you think of the Constitution, like we said, it was written a long time ago.
Different times.
Right, and the landscape politically, everything about today is totally different than it was. And we're at a point where it would be very hard to just start fresh. So the political process they have in place is set for bills and amendments.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when you get two parties, like for example, right now, there's all Republican, and when that happens, it leans towards one side.
Right.
Or it could be like it was when Obama was in, when there was half Democrat and then half Republican, and then there's a stalemate and nothing gets done.
Right.
So then it comes down to, okay, what is the popular opinion behind what should be done? It should be the most popular voting, right? But then it comes down to Electoral College and placements of Supreme Court judges, where it's not 100% pure democracy as it's portrayed.
Well, it's really not even a democracy. The political system we have set up is a constitutional republic.
Right.
So what that is that people elect officials to vote for them. And what happened when Obama was president was that the House side of Congress, the House of Representatives, was Republican, and the Senate was Democrat. So you can't get any bill passed unless it goes through the House first, and then the Senate, and then the president approves it. So with the Republican Congress, they're never going to get anything passed over to the Senate. Or if the Senate has a bill and has to go through the House, it's never going to get passed. And then even if it does, like a Republican bill gets passed through, the president's going to veto it, which is what happened. And now we have, I believe, a Republican Congress and a Republican House, and I'm not really sure what's going on. I don't really follow politics like that anymore.
What's happening is a certain agenda is being pushed, and the majority population isn't really, being portrayed in that way. I guess you could say it's not really what the
an accurate representation.
Right.
Of what the public
The
believes.
consensus isn't actually what's happening,
Yeah.
and it's hard to say how do you do that, right?
Right.
Because we could go and go to the 100% democratic way, but there would also be issues with that, and there would also be issues. I mean, the far left you go, the more socialist and communist it gets. The more right you get, the more anarchist it gets. So it's kind of about finding that middle ground, and I feel like constitutional republic is more leaning a little bit right.
Right.
I don't know what benefits we would see if it was leaning a little left.
Right.
I mean, when it comes to like the ideas of Bernie Sanders and him kind of pushing for a socialist agenda, it has its positives, right? But then I feel it gives the government a little bit too more power. I can't say I'm a Republican or a Democrat. I have an independent thought process.
Right.
I don't.
It's a issue by issue basis, and like the thing is that we have a lot of very laissez-faire stuff when it comes to the economy, but like with a lot of like social services program, like those are socialistic programs.
Exactly.
You know, like I'm on state healthcare right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't pay a fucking dime for that.
Yeah.
Like when you go to work and pay your taxes, like that's paying for me to go to the doctor. I work and that money I make and I work at goes into paying for my healthcare. It's awesome. You know
is
what I mean?
awesome.
I don't have to pay it. I'm in like a rough patch right now, so like having free healthcare is fucking great, dude. Like I wouldn't be able to afford to go to a doctor had I not had that.
It does have its positives. And then, you know, I always was reaping the benefits of that until I recently got my life together and I, you know, came into some money. For example, last Friday I got a $5,000 paycheck. I only received $3,100.
Right.
That's close to 30% of my paycheck. Now, I'm all for all the programs that you spoke about. Where I wish they would put more money towards that, and less money towards programs that we don't know about. For example, Trump just passed a $1.1 billion thing to build the wall, right? I wish that when
you can pick where your tax money goes.
Well, not just that, but like let me get a receipt. Like
Right,
tell me what
yeah.
you're doing with my money.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you say you're doing X and Y and Z, but I'm only seeing a portion of X, you know, working, and then everything else. It's like okay, it's you just see it in your mind as taxes equals government money. They do things with it, and they don't tell us. Now,
see, I think the important thing to realize is that all the government is full is of regular fucking people. You know what I mean? And these regular people are going to do what they can to get the most out of the situation. I'm not saying everyone in the federal government are bad people, but there's bad people everywhere, and there's going to be some bad people in the federal government, and they're going to use that money the way that can directly benefit them and not the masses. So, you know, the real kicker is trying to find people to put into place who can really have an effect on a large majority of the people that are underneath them. And that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's never going to happen. You know, I heard one time a definition of power is the ability to affect change. So somebody who's powerful can change a lot of shit, you know? And I don't really think, and another thing that I always kind of say that might benefit our country as a whole is to start sectioning it off a little bit more. You know what I mean? Because the social issues that we have, like in Atlantic City or, you know, all the way up to Philly or Camden, are way different than what's going on in fucking Kentucky.
exactly. I was just about to say that. The only way that we can accurately kind of make a difference is local elections.
Right.
But when it comes to that, dude, we got stuff to do. What makes us want to engage with someone that we have to go out of our way to learn about, go out of our way to learn their election points, go out of our way to understand how they can make a difference and then research 5 other people and those factors in relation to each other to figure out who's the best. It's complicated.
You know, a cynic would say, like, well, how much do you really care about your local elections then?
Right.
Like, if you're not willing to do the work. And I'm guilty of the same thing. Like, I don't really give a fuck who the mayor of Ventnor is.
Right.
I don't even know if we have a mayor in Ventnor. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But it's like, you know, it's easy for us to talk about, like, you know, the entire country politics as a whole because it's on fucking TV all the time.
Exactly.
And I get shit on my news feed. I go on Drudge Report. I go on Huffington Post, and I can read all these articles about what's going on. Then it's like, well, how much of this shit is actually really going on? Or some kid our age is like in the middle of a mailroom, like typing up some article of what he thinks is what, you know. And my brother coined the term a few years ago. So my last name is Licata, right? We consider ourselves Licatocrats. So whatever directly benefits our family is what we vote for. You know what I mean?
I like that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's really all I care about at the end of the day. You know, like I care about me and the people that I surround myself with. Because it's honestly just too much effort to worry about some kid in the city who like can't eat.
Right.
Like if I can help that kid somehow, like I would like to, but like I'm just another brother trying to like make it in the world. You know? You know what I mean?
We're trying to eat too. And here's the thing: when I worked at the Boys and Girls Club of Atlantic City, a lot of these kids in Atlantic City, you know, underprivileged, they don't even have meals to go home to, right? And the Boys and Girls Club does a lot But here's the thing. When you try talking to a politician, this is what frustrated me when I worked there. When you try talking to the local politicians about what's going on, all they care about is being reelected. They're focusing on, okay, what can I do to directly benefit myself, just as you were saying, so that I get reelected and I can be powerful. But if you're not focused on the issues at hand and you're more focused about your own power, which is the consensus among most politicians nowadays, then you're not going to get anything done. So I feel like it's more about the show and the whole power perspective than it is actually about what's going on in our world. And maybe that's part of the reason that people aren't getting anything done, is because they're more focused on themselves versus the whole. And if I was in that position, who's to say I wouldn't think the same exact way? But then it comes to terms with, okay, why do we think that way? Well, maybe it's because we live in a capitalistic society. You have to be powerful in order to get what you want.
Right.
You're elected, you're going to get a higher salary, you're going to have more benefits down the road to feed your family, buy a bigger house, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
You know, they're thinking about the angle, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, I don't blame him either,
You know?
man. That's what I'm looking to do.
But then again, there's that kid in Atlantic City whose mom's smoking crack, and he doesn't have a meal for 2 days unless he goes to the Boys and Girls Club, and the Boys and Girls Club can only take care of an X amount of kids, and then there's the kids that don't get that food. And you know what's more important is that you getting that house down the $100,000 cheaper house down the line, or that kid eating. And people don't want to think about that. It's kind of like pushing it out of your subconscious.
Yeah, it's out of sight, out of mind, man.
Exactly.
And that's like, I was talking to somebody the other day about like what can be done with Atlantic City, right? Like what can be done with Camden, right? And my thought process was to it is that towns like Linwood and Longport and what are some other nice towns around here? Like Galloway's a nice town too, right?
It's all right. I'm from Galloway, but like Margate.
Like Cherry Hill, like up there,
Hill.
Haddonfield. Like these towns are nice because Camden's a shithole. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the shit has to happen somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
gentrification.
Right, and like I used to run around in like North Philly and like Kensington and that whole area, and like so Fishtown used to be like a real grimy town back in the day.
It's coming up.
It's coming up big. It used to be like an old school Irish town, and there was like a lot of like race rides that happened back there in like the '60s, and the reason that Fishtown's getting nicer is because they're like sectioning off Kensington,
right?
Like, and the police are patrolling around Kensington, right?
Right.
So they're not letting all the shit fly out of there. So it's like one place has to suffer so another place can be
Flourish,
good.
right.
You know? And that's just like the dichotomy of life is like shit has to be bad for
Yin
something
and the
to be
yang,
good.
man.
Yeah, and it's so realistically, like the way I look at it is like, oh, something's always going to be bad, so something else can always be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is an optimistic point of view. And I think that's the only way that you can look at it. I mean, really, you can look at it pessimistically, but it's not going to change anything.
Mm-hmm. All right, so to shift gears a little bit, so it seems like things are going real well for you. You're about to move out of this apartment that we're in right now, which is pretty fucking tight, man.
Yeah.
How's everything going with the move, man? Like, what was it like to have to juggle work and like your personal relationship life and like the other shit you do, and like trying to move? Because moving's a lot. Like I'm moving in a week too, man, and I'm like not really stressed out about it because I don't really have an apartment full of stuff.
Right.
I have a bedroom where I can fit everything in my car and fucking bolt.
Yeah.
I lived like that for a long time, man. It was like whatever I can fit in my trunk in the backseat of my car is all I'm keeping.
Simple life, man, is easier. I'm going to say one thing. I set a goal to move up, right? I found this place, little studio overlooking Ventnor Ave, and I knew I wasn't going to be here forever. I wanted to move into a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartment, and that goal I achieved. And balancing it kind of came with kind of going with the flow in a sense, because I portioned it off time management in a way that I could accurately get my work done as well as find the place. So we looked at a couple places. The funny thing is the apartment, we've been looking at it for a very long time. And when you have the vision of going somewhere and you manifest what you want to do ultimately with your goal, it's going to happen. So right now, this is the step that I want to take, right? I want to get into this place. I did get into this place.
Right.
I'm not going to be here forever. The goal is to buy a house. So
Right.
it's all about those levels. So it was cool, man, moving up. It's something that I'm passionate about because I've wanted it for so long, and finally you change for the positive, and positive things happen. I'm a big, firm believer of that now. Positivity, man. Mm-hmm. It really changed my life. I don't even let negativity or negative thoughts enter my realm because all it does is bring me down. I can't let that happen.
So now, for like a realistic approach, there's going to be times when negative thoughts come into your mind. So like, what kind of action do you take when that happens? Like,
for example, let's say I go to work and I drive an hour away to go to this company that I want to advertise, and I spent all this time putting a proposal together, been chasing them for months, and then they don't do it, right? All that time I invested.
Right.
I could be like, you know what, I'm going to give up, right? They didn't advertise it. The next day, and this is what happened, the next day, another big account I closed. It's all...
close the deal, right?
Yeah,
the deal? Okay.
And I saw that, like you were saying, with bad stuff comes good things. Mm-hmm. So if I'm ultimately thinking about the next positive thing when a negative thing happens, that's what kind of gets me through. If a negative thing happens, I'm like, okay, what can I take positive out of this?
Right.
What can I learn from this? And what can I do to make sure that this doesn't happen again? Or B, what can I do to be prepared for it?
Right.
And that's what helps me. I've realized that being negative, which I was for a very large portion of my life, didn't do anything for me. When I started thinking positively, a lot of things started happening for the better.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody today, right? And we were talking about that kind of same thing, like when negative stuff happens, like what your positive thought is going to be after that. And he was talking about like missing a bus, like, oh shit, I missed the bus again. You know what I mean? But like, who am I supposed to see along the way that wouldn't have seen had I gotten on that earlier bus?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's really just like a mental shift into like, all right, so what's the good part about this going to be? You know, like what's the lesson? What am I supposed to see? You know, and
that's hard to do.
It's really hard, bro.
Because when you get caught in that moment of negativity, it's so easy to sit in it.
Right.
Because you're like, oh, this sucks. I don't know what I'm going to do. Blah, 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 blah. And it's so easy to sit in that. But sitting in it, it's cause for destruction. And it's not easy, dude. I do it. I sit in it sometimes.
Right.
But I realized that when I do sit in it, nothing good comes out of it.
Yeah, I've noticed the time that I sit in my shit has been like less and less, like recently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And partly it's probably because I got all this good shit happening in my life right now. You know what I mean? Like I got a good job. You know, I'm in a good relationship. You know, I see my family very frequently, and like I got all this other extracurricular stuff that like I'm trying to do to just like, you know, keep feeding the mind. You know what I mean? And like, you know, doing this podcast thing and like, you know, keep feeding my mind and like help me think like more and more and more. And you know, sometimes I go through the day and there's just like ideas I have. I'm like, oh man, it's like a great podcast topic, and I've done a pretty shitty job of like writing it down, like to you know, like get all those thoughts together. But
it's hard.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, I'm fucking busy, so I need to just stop making excuses for it and like actually like kind of get down on the grind.
Well, filling the time, filling your time with positive things. When something negative does happen, it doesn't take a huge toll on you because you have all these other positive things going on.
Got shit to do, man.
Right,
like,
I got shit to do.
I got like, you know, I can't have time to be like, you know, sitting on a fucking pity pot because like I got stuff I got to get done. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like one of the best things I've done probably in the past year was having my life organized in a calendar on my phone, man.
Yeah.
And it's like even something like this. Me and you have been talking over the past couple of days, and we've run into each other like, yo, Monday, right? We're getting together on Monday for the podcast. We're like, yeah, Monday. So like I put it in my phone. I put a reminder in. Like I had at the top like all day, like Gavin podcast. And then I had a reminder for when I needed to call you, and I called you those 2 times that I had the reminder in the phone. So I called you when we talked earlier and was like, all right, we'll shoot for like 5 or 5:30. Like I'll call you around then. Then I set another alarm on my phone and it went off, and I was like, time to call Gavin.
No way to forget.
Yeah, no way to forget. And then it's like when I'm going through my day, it's like, you know, I'm sitting here on my phone and I'm scrolling through it and I'm like, all right, yeah, so what do I got to do for the next few hours? The one thing I don't like about that though is like the spontaneity of my life, like really really is like almost gone, dude. You know
The what?
The spontaneity.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's not much spontaneous time like in my
Right.
life, bro. Like there's like it's like everything I feel like is all kind of planned out and set. And I guess I kind of miss that when I used to wake up and just like have no clue what the day's gonna bring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I guess even though I have stuff like planned out, it's like how it really unfolds. Like I'm not really gonna know.
Yeah.
Even though I like to think I do. You know?
Yeah, when it comes to the spontaneous thing, I remember when I was younger, my mom always would make me wake up to do something. I always had something to do when I was younger. I would either had to travel to go to my dad's, always had something to do, and she always, and I would love those days when I would just wake up and have nothing to do. Then when I got the time when I went to college and I was like, yes, I finally can just do nothing when I want to do nothing.
All right.
And when that happened, I realized that saying, idle time is the devil's workshop.
Right.
Because after you get too much time to do nothing, negative manifests because you're not shooting for anything. You're not striving.
No direction.
There's no direction towards a goal. And once you don't have a goal, then there's really, what is there to live for?
Yeah, man. I mean, the biggest thing I got in my life right now is a purpose. You know what I mean? It's to help other people
100%.
out. And it's a great way to live, man. Same shit happened to me when I was in college, man. I had absolutely no direction. I didn't really know what I was going to go. I just, I knew I was going to school. But, not really for what. Didn't really care what I did. I had this, horrible outlook on the world. And that carried with me for almost 10 years. And I was telling somebody this ridiculous story, and I'm not going to tell the story right now because I don't want people to know about it. It's just like a ridiculous story from the past, man, when I was doing some dumb shit. And the kid who's just as crazy as I am, right? Because I've heard some stories he's told me. He looked at me in the most sincere way. He's like, dude, I don't know how the fuck you're alive. I'm like, bro, I have no idea either, man. And the thing is I was thinking about this early today too, was that really that bad? You know what I mean? I have this, I tell myself that all the time. Nah, man, you really weren't that bad. Because it's when it's your own shit, it doesn't seem like it's that big a deal because it happened to you and it happened a while back and you just remember these vague recollections of what went on. You're like, was it really that bad when I was doing all that shit?
And then you get another perspective.
Yeah. Then I tell someone the story. They're like, dude, that's one of the craziest things I've ever heard.
Right.
I'm like, really? I'm like, nah, man, that was just a typical Wednesday in the life of a tweaker in California, bro.
Yeah.
It wasn't really nuts, And
It's true.
I mean, fuck. I don't know. But I guess part of the reason of my newfound success is that structure, that purpose, and that direction. I wake up and I got stuff to do. I got people to see. I got phone calls to make. And I stay moving, man. It's really true what they say. An object in motion stays in motion. An object at rest stays at rest. And
Kinetic energy.
I've tried to stay in motion for almost the past year, and it's just continuing on, man. And then one thing I would like to do, man, is start getting into the gym. I like to sleep in, bro.
Oh yeah.
I fucking love to sleep in.
I love to sleep in. I don't go to the gym in the morning because
you don't?
Never. Maybe on the weekends if I'm up to it, but I usually go to the gym after work or on my lunch break, and the reason being is because, like you said, in the morning I'm just shot. And I've heard some things about gyms in the morning, your body hasn't been in motion enough to be prepared for it.
Oh, really?
And there's different theories. I don't know how true it is, but for me, I know that I need to be up for a little while before I hit the gym because, and it also gives me something to look forward to because I have an addicted personality and I've got addicted to the gym and it helps me because I'll wake up and I'll go through my day, go to work or whatever, and then I look forward to going to the gym because it's that positive part of my day that allows me to get stress out, allows me to feel good about myself, and allows me to build. Because for a while there I wasn't able to build upon myself because I didn't feel I was validated myself. So I found validity in improving my health and wellness of the body and mind. Once I was able to correlate building my spiritual and mental production in comparison to my building my body and my physical production, when you correlate those two together, it almost has a chemical reaction for, just euphoria naturally.
Right.
And it's something that, you know, I love, man. And I cannot wait. We talked about results before, and I cannot wait until, you know, the future where all of the spiritual and mental stuff manifests more than the physical. Because the physical, it's easy to see, right?
Right.
You can see the progress. When it comes to spiritually and mentally, it's not as easy to see because it's...
Someone almost has to point it out to you
right.
if you really even realize
exactly.
it. Exactly.
And for me, it's hard to gauge that.
Right.
One thing that I can say how I become aware of it is just by simply taking a step back in that meditative state.
Right.
Because then you can look at it from an outside perspective. But then even then, it's not easy. And, you know, just for me, that chemical reaction to euphoria naturally is something that, I love it, man.
Yeah, so I wonder when you were saying that if I'm ever really going to be truly satisfied with where I'm at. You know what I mean? Because I almost feel like if you're satisfied with what you got, then you become complacent.
Exactly.
And that's where it stops. And I had somebody say to me early on that, you know, there's a big difference between contentment and complacency. You know what I mean? Contentment is good. Being content with where you're at and like what you got is great, and that's how I am right now. But I'm nowhere near complacent. Like, this is not enough. You know what I mean? I'm happy with what I got, but like I'm not going to stop working. And it's not like the fact that I really want more. It's I know I can do better, and I know I can have more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's 100% true. I know millionaires, and they say to me, when I started out, I couldn't get past $1,000. Once I got to $1,000, it wasn't enough. And then once I got to $100,000, it wasn't enough. And then once I got to $1 million, it still wasn't enough.
Right.
It's almost like within our human psyche that it'll never be enough.
I wonder if that's like a survival instinct.
Probably. I mean, because right back when we were cavemen, you know, you kill a moose or whatever prehistoric creature, and you know you got to feed your fam, but you got to also feed the village. And if you got a huge village, that one moose isn't going to be enough, so you got to keep killing moose. So maybe it's built in that form,
right?
But who's to really say? I mean, all I know is that shit. No matter how much I grow, it's still not enough physically, mentally, spiritually, and maybe that's a problem, but.
Yeah, I don't really know if that is a problem. It almost seems like you know, I always say if you're not learning, you're dying. You know what I mean? Like the day you stop learning is the day you start dying.
That's true.
You know, and I hope that that's an original phrase of mine. I'm not sure if it is or not. So I'm sorry. I
like it. Sounds good.
I think I made that up. I have no fucking clue if I made it up though. But dude, the big thing I'm having trouble with right now is going to school, bro. I fucking hate it, dude.
Yeah.
I hate going up there, man.
Yeah.
I hate making the drive. I hate having to sit in class. It's like, yo, you could have gave me this book at the beginning of the semester and gave me 2 weeks to read it, and I could have answered everything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why do I have to sit here for all this shit, man? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
15 weeks is like a long time for a semester, and it's like, you know, I took out all these student loans back when I was 18 and just fucked around, and now like I owe all this money, and I'm like, well, all right, well, if I take out, you know, a quarter more of what I already owe, or of what I already owe, like 25% more, I'll be able to get a 4-year degree. But like, do I really need the degree, or can I like figure out a way to self-make myself?
That's a hard pill to swallow, because from, like you were saying, from an existential point of view, when you're not learning, you're dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to, you know, do you necessarily need to learn in college? You can do your own research and learn. But
just as much.
But also, when you have that piece of paper, it's proven statistically that you are bound to make more money than someone who does not.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Right, so it's a hard pill to swallow. But then you also look at the statistics of billionaires who developed all these crazy ideas, and there's a lot of them that were college dropouts.
Right, yeah.
So it's like, but see, that's the hard part. It's like, do I give it all up to be that very small percentage, or do I become a part of the very large percentage, which then you reap the benefits of doing better than that other big percentage that didn't go to college?
Right.
So it's like, you know, it's, like you said, it's a dichotomy, but I guess figuring that out comes down to that whole self-awareness factor. Like, do I have a $1 billion idea?
Right. Well, not yet I don't, man, because
right.
I'm fucking spending you know, I don't know, whatever it is, 8 hours a week
Right.
on campus, and then like I'm working and all this other shit.
So it's like if I don't have $1 billion idea, what's the next best thing to do?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, for me, dude, I have one class left,
Right.
and I need to take it, right? Because I put all this time in, and I need to do it. But
And you
like
paying back loans too?
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't qualify for those stopping paying those loans because I don't have like a full semester that I need to take. So I need to still pay loans and go to school and pay for that at the same time.
Oh, right. Yeah, see, that was one of the reasons why I went back to school, because I'm not making a lot of money now. So if I go back to school, I can just defer the loans to a later date.
And here's the problem though, like
like I'm taking more money out to not pay now.
So I have to go back to school, but you know, I'm doing pretty well right now. So why do I need to go back to school? But then, you know, you hear the...
It's because you're also paying for it already.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So you might as well get it.
And my job, which is interesting, a lot of the positive and jobs that were lucrative that I've recently got over the past few years didn't really look down upon the fact that I had one class left.
Right.
They saw that I had put the work in, but manifested my time in various ways that, you know, stuff happened that I wasn't able to finish. But they see you for who you are.
Right.
I look at it like this. If you have like we were saying, if you have $1 billion idea, you go into Microsoft or Google right now, and you have 0 college education, you don't even have a high school degree, you may not even have a second grade degree. But if that idea is worth a lot, they're going to accept you.
Right.
They're going to accept that idea. Just like me going into this job. If I don't have a 4-year degree, if I have a 3.9 out of 4% done, but they accept me for me as an idea, then I'll be okay. But then, do you want to take that chance? Like, what happens? God forbid that I lose this job. I'm still not. I don't have a degree right now. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
you know?
It's like it's almost worth it to just fucking go back and get
I need
it,
to, and I'm working on it. My job, you know, it pays me enough that I could go back, but you know, life hits you. You got bills. You got
right. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I went on this class trip over. Do I talk to you about this?
Yeah, you told me when you went to.
Yeah, so like
Fox.
and I don't remember if I was talking about how like the guy was saying that like you need to do like an internship. You know what I mean? To like make it in like the television world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cuz I can't afford to not work.
Right.
Like what? He's like, well, you just you figure it out. I'm like I can't figure it out, bro. Like like I gotta eat, bro. Like I need to pay rent.
That was something that benefited me when I just had told you about how I was able to secure some of these positions was through internships.
Right.
I had an internship with the engineering department at Rowan. I worked in the engineering department as the guide. So they needed a communications major to bring K through 12 students around the engineering department.
Oh, that's perfect for you.
And kind of explain to them each department and how they could benefit from it.
Right.
I did that for a year. Then I got...
So you did that while you were in school?
In school.
Yeah,
and then when I left school, I got an internship at a concrete company.
Doing what?
Doing marketing. It was a marketing and sales internship where I basically learned about how to sell it, and then I worked on the marketing team behind development and everything. And that really helped. I also did an internship with Habitat for Humanity. Okay. Built houses, and I was part of the resource team where I helped recruit people. When I did that stuff, I only got paid for the concrete one. The other ones, I was in school, so I was there. I was right. On campus.
You had a place to live. You had the dining hall to eat at.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So it's hard.
And like part of it is I kind of gotta respect the fact that like I put myself in the position that I'm in. You know what I mean? It's nobody's fault but my own. That like, so I guess what I'm trying to do right now is figure out like what I can do to make the best out of the situation I got. You know what I mean?
You're doing it.
Yeah, I guess so.
You
never think you are though.
That's
the
thing.
What I mean?
That's the thing. But I feel like being able to realize that will definitely it inhibits progress when you become aware of how great you are. Like this one guy, I was just watching this thing. His mentor told him, "All right, you have $50,000." And this is an outlandish, crazy idea. I wouldn't advise for people to do this, but he said, you have $50,000. I want you to spend $25,000 on that on a really nice car, 10,000 of that on a crazy nice wardrobe, and the rest on rent for a really nice place. Right. The physical things around you will be really nice, and they'll inhibit you to be successful because you have the vision and the tools to get you there. When people see you, they see success, and fake it till you make it, right?
Right.
Now, I don't know how the studies or research is done behind
what did you see this on? Like,
it was on YouTube. It was this guy, he's a motivational speaker. He was talking about...
so he was saying that you should do that kind of shit? Like,
well, no, he was saying how his dad was a CEO of a billion-dollar company.
Right.
And he started off very poor, and his mentor told him that, and he became a CEO of a billion-dollar company through just envisioning himself as a CEO of a billion-dollar company from the very beginning.
Right.
So when he was in the same situation we're in, he saw himself as a CEO. He walked around like he was a CEO, and he carried himself like a CEO of a billion-dollar company before he was. Yeah, and then he became that.
Right. Yeah, I think that's huge, man. Just like acting the way you want to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like acting where you want to be. Like, you know, I heard somebody tell me, like, you know, dress for the job you want, not the job you got, sort of thing, you know?
That's true.
So I find that hard to do sometimes.
Oh,
man.
it is.
You know,
it's
completely hard. I like to wear fitted hats and baggy jeans and like sweatpants and shit.
No
you know
doubt,
what I mean? Like, I'm
no
trying
doubt.
to be comfortable.
Yeah, for me, you know, see, I have to dress up for work.
Right. Always look good too, by the way.
Thanks, bud. And then I go to a meeting dressed up, but then, like, even on my day off, I feel as though I should be dressing up to go and speaking with people because I, you know, have portrayed this image, and when I show up in shorts and sweatpants, I don't feel like I'm accurately portraying who I want to be. And it's crazy for me to think like that, and it's part of the ego.
Right.
But at the same time, if it worked for others, you know, maybe it may work for me. But then there's also the fact of, like, okay, you know, physically and physical things shouldn't really determine your spiritual wealth. So that's a constant struggle, realizing spiritual wealth and materialism, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the funny thing is that, like, people, like, it's the truth, though. Like, people judge you on what your appearance is.
Right.
You know what I mean? I do it all the time,
Hell
bro.
yeah.
Like, I see some dude on the bus who's, like, you know, baggy
Raggedy.
pants on, hood on, and I'm judging the shit out of him.
Yeah, raggedy.
You know what I mean? You know?
Just the way we're wired.
Yeah, man. I don't really think there's anything really wrong with that. You know what I mean? Like, yes, people say, oh, you shouldn't judge somebody based off their appearance. But, I mean, if you look like shit, like, what do you want me to believe?
Right.
You know, you got to tell me otherwise. You know?
Exactly.
And that's probably an instinctual thing, too, is that, like, when the visual cue is the first thing you got to go off of. You know, actually, visual or auditory, that's going to be the first two things that you get off the bat. You know, whether I'm hearing what you're saying. You know, I do that sometimes when I'm out, like, listening to somebody. If I don't like the person, but I want to, like listen to what they're saying, I got to, like, close my eyes and just try to hear the words rather than the voice or look at the person who it's coming out of.
Yeah, it's hard to respect words coming out of someone's mouth if they do not, and I'm not talking about, like, their body or how they physically look, but how they carry themselves. It's hard to respect a voice from someone who carries himself in a negative or not so positive manner.
Right.
So that's something that I guess it's just part of society.
Yeah, man. And you never know, you know, who you're gonna run into and what they're gonna say.
Yeah, and there's also the other side of the coin, which is there are people that do not carry themselves well in clothing and how they speak, but they're literal geniuses, you know?
Right.
So everything comes down to the yin and the yang, Brian. It's so true, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, bro. It's crazy. All right, well, we got some places me and you got to be, so let's wrap this up. I think this was a solid podcast. I got a bunch of missed calls I need to take care of here. But good shit, man. Let's do this same time next week.
Yeah, right? One love.
One heart.